The Cambodian Genocide, presented by Sophia, Emily, and Ethan. Cambodia is a small country in Southeast Asia. They gained their independence from France. As the Vietnam War progresses, Cambodia under Prime Minister Norodom Sihanouk remained neutral, but by 1970 he was overthrown by a military coup. This was run by his own general, Lon Nol. After Lon Nol took control, he tried to eliminate the communists with the help of the U.S. After the U.S. took their forces out of Cambodia, Lon Nol and his army could no longer hold off communism. During the Vietnamese War, the Viet Cong, who had strong communist beliefs, were allowed to use Cambodian ports, and the U.S. was allowed to move freely throughout Cambodia. They secretly bombed Viet Cong hideouts in Cambodia, which is another example of containment at any cost. The genocide began when the Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot, overthrew Lon Nol. The Khmer Rouge was a radical revolutionary group in Cambodia. It was mostly made up of young, uneducated boys that would storm into cities and demand everyone to leave. This group started to get larger and larger because many did not like how Lon Nol worked with the U.S. while the U.S. was causing chaos in Cambodia. The Khmer Rouge forced people to move onto communal farms where families starved, were worked to death, or diseases killed them. They wanted to start from a year zero, where people were isolated from the rest of the world and typical communist policies would be established, eliminating money, private property, classes, and religion. The Khmer Rouge made special centers, which were like concentration camps. During this 4-year period, 2 million Cambodians were killed. This includes educated individuals, middle-class citizens, and even higher-ranking people in the Khmer Rouge. Many countries actually knew about the actions of the Khmer Rouge during the genocide. Unfortunately, they took virtually no action to halt the human rights abuses. Specifically, the United States did not want to send troops to Southeast Asia so soon after the Vietnam War. However, there is evidence that the U.S. supported the Khmer Rouge during their reign with economic support because they shared Vietnam as a common enemy. Little intelligence of what was happening in Cambodia was public knowledge, and what was known was doubted. Many people didn't believe the supposedly egalitarian peasant movement would be capable of such mass murder. Meanwhile, Cambodia was on harsh terms with Vietnam, having had many military skirmishes with them. On Christmas Day, 1978, Vietnam launched a full-scale invasion of Cambodia, which finished on January 8, 1979, where the Vietnamese overthrew the Khmer Rouge, establishing the People's Republic of Kampuchea. Kampuchea is what the Cambodians call Cambodia. This effectively ended the Cambodian Genocide. However, many countries used Vietnam's invasion of Cambodia as a way to demonize them, making Vietnam withdraw within the decade due to economic pressures placed on them by trade embargoes and restrictions. The United States and other Western powers actually let the Khmer Rouge be the official representation for Cambodia at the United Nations for years after the fall from power. Even when the People's Republic of Kampuchea existed. Francois Ponchad, born 1939, is a Christian missionary who came to Cambodia in 1965. 10 years later, when Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, was captured by the Khmer Rouge, he was exiled and went to France. He became a confidant for refugees who detailed the atrocities occurring in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge. He then published works in French newspapers like Le Monde in 1966, and he published a book, Year Zero, on the Cambodian Genocide. Unfortunately, the world did not act on these reports. Today, he has returned to Cambodia and is helping the country recover. People believe that there is a clear problem within the Cambodian government. They believe that justice is being stalled because low-level members of the Khmer Rouge are still in office today. The politics and the past of those in power inhibit justice. The Prime Minister chose to bury the past. Cambodia still remains divided into two camps, the victims and the perpetrators. This division, as well as increasing activism around the subject, slowly increased the desire of Cambodians to learn their past and to know the truths behind the Khmer. The ECCC tribunals were not expected to completely fulfill these wishes, but they would certainly assist victims seeking out justice. The tribunals continue to unfold, and it becomes clear that the most of the leaders of the Khmer Rouge felt that their actions were necessary and that some were only following orders given to them. During the trial, there is no remorse in their words. They describe the Cambodian population as pests to be exterminated and blame dead Khmer leader Pol Pot for their crimes. The Khmer Rouge is not taught within schools. Cambodians want accurate information to be taught in their schools. They do not want to skew the memory of their history. The country is thus working towards educational and therapeutic measures, sites, and practices of remembrance, such as the National Day of Hatred, to commemorate the crimes and the victims of the Khmer Rouge regime, as well as preliminary efforts of restorative justice. Many people find it hard to move past these crimes because of how prominent they are in their lives. As Cambodia begins to move towards a dictatorship, more people fear that human rights will be further violated, and many are afraid of speaking out. Survivors are fearful of another Khmer Rouge and possible genocide. Almost 3 decades after Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge were driven out, the Cambodian government requested the UN to come and help figure out a way to prosecute the leaders of these crimes. Initially, the UN wanted to create a court resembling the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, but the Cambodian government resisted. The Cambodian government refused the UN's proposal, opposing Western influence in prosecuting individuals of the Khmer Rouge. After much negotiation between the UN General Assembly and the Cambodian government, they agreed to an amended bilateral agreement on June 6, 2003, which approved an agreement on the prosecution of crimes. As a result, the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia formed. However, because of how long it took to put the system in place, many members of the Khmer Rouge had already died, including Pol Pot, Son Sen, Yon Yat, Theuen Theuen, Ta Mok, and Ki Pak. Many suspected perpetrators were also killed in the military struggle with Vietnam or eliminated as internal threats to the Khmer Rouge itself. Cases that were prosecuted include Kang Kek Yu, aka Comrade Douche, the head of the Khmer Rouge's internal security branch, who extended the prison system nationwide. He was charged with murder, torture, and crimes against humanity, and until recently was serving a 30-year sentence, which was later appealed to extend it to life. Nuon Chia, aka Brother Number 2, he was second in command of the Khmer Rouge regime and was their chief ideologist, charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity, and is serving a life sentence. Ian Sari, aka Brother Number 3, a co-founder and senior member of the Khmer Rouge. He was the Minister of Foreign Affairs as well as a Deputy Prime Minister, charged with crimes against humanity and war crimes. However, he died before the trial was concluded. Ian Thurith, Minister of Social Affairs from 1975 until 1979. She was arrested for crimes against humanity, planning, direction, coordination, and ordering of widespread purges, or member of staff members from within the Minister of Social Affairs. However, is deemed unfit to be put on trial due to a severe case of Alzheimer's. Khieu Samphan was an extremely powerful politician in the Khmer Rouge and served as head of state of Cambodia from 1976 until 1979. He was charged with crimes against humanity and is now serving a life sentence. Cambodian scholars believe that the reconciliation will only be achieved when there is a willingness to offer forgiveness at a national and community level. However, as previously mentioned, the leaders of the Khmer Rouge do not feel any remorse for the crimes they committed. They felt it was necessary. It is also difficult to forgive when the leaders of the Rouge are so prevalent in their lives and politics. They feel the state needs to uphold culture, economy, society, and politics with accordance to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Scholars also believe that in order for the healing process to begin, the state must take responsibility for the violations of citizens' rights. The state needs to hold the Khmer Rouge responsible for the clear violation of human rights. In 1979, 81 of the 310 killing fields were transformed into official memorial sites. During the trials, the victims demanded reparations and a day of remembrance for those lives lost and those who suffered these horrid crimes. May 20th serves as the Day of Remembrance. These victims also demanded memorials. These memorials allowed people to search for loved ones, give people answers, and a place to grieve. They also serve as a place for people to learn about what happened and how. They hope by creating these memorials, it will help to make people aware and to help prevent further crimes against humanity across the world. In memorial sites is the Tol Slang Genocide Museum, the site of the prison S-21. An estimate of 20,000 people were brought and tortured here. Here they were imprisoned and dehumanized. They were tortured into signing false confessions, proving they were the enemy of the regime. In 1890, it became a genocide museum and memorial. Cho Ing Ek, the Killing Fields Genocidal Center, is another memorial site. This was the place for executions of the prisoners of S-21. 129 mass graves were found. The memorial is the largest in Cambodia. It contains elements from Hinduism and Buddhism. It has the shape of a Buddhist stupa. Within the memorial are weapons used by the Khmer Rouge and skulls and bones from the mass graves.